the second part that's 4/4, that was my idea, where it's just going, and then the kind of where it switches radically, that was another Luis part. Like I can't, it's like bum 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 bum.
Welcome back to the EJM podcast number 2. Today I'm chatting with Mr. Josiah Feinberg of the Ghoul Club, of his solo material, Radiant Flux, Max Minimum, Steradian, the Transport Assembly, Baby Panda. The list just goes on and on. Did I forget anything?
Not yet, but thanks. How you doing, Eric?
Good, man. How the hell are you doing, sir?
Great. Yeah. Excited to be here. Obviously, you and I've known each other a long time and played in a couple of those bands that you mentioned. So,
absolutely, man.
Yeah. So we have a long history, long friendship, and long, history of collaboration musically.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, kept me sane. One of the things I was thinking about too is, do you remember how we met?
Okay, that's a good question, and I thought of that. But I know it had something to do with Ben, Mr. Has-Been Benders. Shout out.
Ben. Ben and I were roommates at the time. That's true. So that I was living in the Eastlake neighborhood of Seattle, and so were you. So I used but Ben was my roommate. I used to see you all the time at the Eastlake Market, and I just thought I could tell you were a musician. You didn't have long hair back then, but you kind of had cool hair,
That's
cool
right.
shorter hair.
Yeah, I remember seeing you around Eastlake. Now I remember that.
Eastlake Market was, that was the spot. I used to get they also made pretty good chicken teriyaki in the back too, and they had this good salad with sort of carrot ginger dressing on it. I got a lot.
Yeah, I used to get the yakisoba takeout there.
Yeah, that was also good. Yeah, so that was it. I used to see you there all the time. I'm like, that dude looks like a musician, and I was hoping you were a drummer because I was almost always looking for a drummer in those days. And it turns out you were definitely a drummer, and you're one of the best ones in Seattle that I had ever met. So we ended up long and very productive friendship and musical relationship. But yeah.
Amen, brother. I remember not hanging out outside Eastlake Market, but you go and then you come out, and sometimes you throw something away and you see somebody, and I can't remember if that's how I met Ben, but I remember having conversations with Ben outside of the market, and I feel like that led to me eventually meeting you.
Okay.
Does that sound accurate?
You think you met Ben before you met me? That's possible.
That's how I remember it. And then I remember I could be totally way off, but I feel like he hooked us up. Like he was like, oh yeah, maybe my roommate is looking for a drummer, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know who that guy is. And then I think we just ran into each other and just struck up a conversation, which sounds insane these days because that literally never happens.
Yeah. Yes, this was back in 2009, right? I think 2009 was when we met.
I think it was this was way before that. This was 2004.
I didn't live in Seattle in 2004. Wait, no, I moved there in 2004, but no, it wasn't 2009, it was 2008, because that's when the previous drummer of the Transport Assembly, Aaron Collada, he departed and moved. And so we had an opening in the Transport Assembly for drummer.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, 2008. And then, you stayed in the Transport Assembly until it reached its conclusion at the end of 2009. And then after that, Steradian was formed, and you got in on the ground level of that. So, and then we found our other band member, John Herman, within about 6 or 7 months after, in early 2010.
So what year did you move to Eastlake? I'm just curious.
Well, I moved to Seattle period in 2004, but I don't remember if I don't think I moved to East Lake until '05. It's possible we saw each other around the neighborhood, but I don't think, well, I know you didn't join, we didn't start playing music together until '08, but it's possible we hung, or were, you know, had seen
I
each other around.
Yeah, I remember it differently. I remember a little being a little earlier than 2008 because I don't think I lived in East Lake in 2008, and or maybe I was just on my way out. But I remember when we first played together. I think you hired me on for a session or like a gig. Is that correct?
That's possible. It's possible that we're like, because I do remember your main band at that time was Patrol, and you might have been a little bit hesitant to take on a second band, so you kind of wanted to try it out, maybe fill in for a gig or something. I had kind of forgotten about that, but yeah, that sounds
I think it was at the
plausible.
Rendezvous,
Rendezvous. Oh
Jewel
man,
Box Theater.
yeah, that's right. Yes, yes, I remember. You know what? That's yeah, that was a good one. And I remember that one of the other bands, and this is just coming back to me, but the other band, on the bill was called Starlight Mints, and it was a drummer, a guitar player, and a singer. They didn't have any bass, but they're pretty good from what I remember. It's so
Cool
weird how that
memory.
random info just comes back to you. When you said the Jewel Box Theater, then I remembered the Starlight Mints.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Um, Yeah. So you know what else, kind of was going on at that time that kind of was part of how we met was Video Quest, which you worked at before I did, but we both we
Yes,
both
that was awesome.
and they had, I mean, not only was it back in the day of, video stores, but they had a tanning booth in the back, which was frequented by some pretty interesting people.
Multiple. Yeah, they had like 4 to 6 tanning beds plus like a stand-up tanner.
Yeah.
Uh, those were the days, man.
And
That was fun
kind of,
times.
what'd you say?
Those were fun times.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, anyone who went into the tanning booth, they came out smelling like burnt dog or something, it was bad.
It was
But
brutal. Yeah, Video Quest was the video store that my good friend Doug owned, and I worked for him. He was gracious enough to have me as an employee for several years. You know, and then we went on to play a bunch of music, and then you worked there. I think I knew a bunch of guys. Bryce worked there.
yeah,
Pretty much everyone worked there. The whole
yeah.
neighborhood.
Everyone who was anyone in the early aughts. Where are they
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. Oh, they're still around mostly.
Yeah. No, Doug sold that at the right time, for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He got out
Saw
just
the
in
writing
time.
on the wall, cashed out, and yep, he did the right thing.
So let's talk a little bit more about your pilgrimage. Moved from Chicago to
Mhm.
Seattle in 2004, you said?
Yeah, 2004 I moved to Seattle. Uh-huh.
Was that primarily goal was just to pursue the music thing or?
Uh, it was a sort of multi-purpose goal. I'd kind of lived in the Chicago area for a good portion of my life, and at that point, I was like about 27, and I had a girlfriend there who moved to Washington. So that was one thing. I was like, oh, this would be a good, kind of excuse for me to get out of here because even though I loved Chicago and still do, it's the winters are brutal, and it's kind of
Totally.
it's a big crowded, cold, competitive place, and it's at the time I thought it was pretty expensive to live in, especially being someone in my 20s, didn't have a high paying job or anything like that. I was still trying to. I was just all I cared about was making music. So but it was like kind of a turning point for me too, because I had decided to finish college, which I had not done. I had kind of, had a couple of years and then kind of taken, maybe 7 years
Sure.
off college. I'm like, well, I had this girlfriend who was going to Washington to go to school in Bellingham. at Western Washington. And I had found out about Evergreen State College in Olympia, so I got accepted there, and so yeah, I was like super psyched. And then the other piece of the puzzle was my cousin Paul Ganzenbach. But Paul had just moved to the Northwest too, and he's originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, so he had
Yes.
moved up at the same time that I was planning to do so. So that was like really another motivation for me, was to kind of be near to him, because he was a family member that I had not gotten to spend a lot of time with. But he's a couple years older than me, and he'd always had like super good taste in music, and I always kind of looked up to him. And he started songwriting probably a couple of years ahead of me, so I kind of always was trying to keep pace with him when I was coming up.
Yeah, dude. And I just wanted to also point out that I've worked with Paul a bunch over the years, and he's a great guy, and he's got a great talent for making music. Paul Ganzenbach, he's on Bandcamp and
Yeah.
everywhere you get music these days. But yeah,
Yes.
go ahead and continue.
Oh yeah. So basically for a couple of years I had kind of been thinking about moving, somewhere, and I really was thinking about Portland actually at first, because I was actually born in Portland, but when I was about 5 years old, my family moved to the East Coast, to Virginia, for my dad's work, and then 2 years after that, we moved to the Chicago area. So I've basically been in the Chicago area since I was about 7. But I kind of wanted to reconnect with my Northwestern, roots, and check that out. So I thought I was going to move to Portland. Tried that, I think, about a year earlier, but it didn't. It just didn't work out. But then, when I met this girlfriend in Chicago, and she was moving out to Washington, and then I found out about Evergreen State College, and then Paul was ending up moving up to, the Seattle area or near there. I was like, okay, this is all coming together. So
Very serendipitous.
yeah, it felt like it was meant to be. And yeah, no, I had a very great time in Seattle when I lived there, which was from 04 through 2015, 11 years. Great time living there. Speaking of, I mentioned the whole Chicago was feeling expensive, and then when I got to Seattle, it was like, oh man, my wages went up 30% and my rent went down like $100, and everything was cheaper in Washington at the time. But that changed over time. By the time I left Seattle, it was getting really expensive, and I know you've
Yeah,
experienced
those days are long gone. I mean, actually, the rents come down a bit
Oh,
since the COVID thing.
yeah.
But yeah, it's generally still pretty expensive around here.
Yeah.
So now you're in the Big Easy, New
Yeah.
Orleans. How long have you been there for now?
5 years and 9 months. So coming up on 6 years. It'll be 6 years in June, which is, it's pretty substantial at this point, I'd say. A significant amount of time.
Yeah, and I was able to visit you at least once or twice.
Yeah,
and
at least twice.
I loved it, dude. I've had a freaking ball down there. We had a ball.
We did, yeah.
So I went ahead and visited you a couple times in New Orleans. Once was on vacation. One time I was on tour. We had a pretty good time both times, I must say. And, thank you for that. Thank you for hosting me.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, you're one. I mean, you're not the only person who's visited me down here, but you're one of just a few. And like my cousin Paul has come down here a few times too. And yeah, it's a fun place to hang out. It's a fun place to live, fun place to visit. The only thing I don't like is when there's hurricanes and I gotta decide if I need to evacuate or not.
Totally, yeah.
That's not every year. Last year there was like 5 hurricanes that we had warnings for, and
Jeez.
at least 2 or 3 of them hit Louisiana, but really only one of them hit the city of New Orleans, and that was the last one. And I was at my girlfriend's house about an hour away, so it was not that bad over there. But in the city of New Orleans, it basically was a direct hit, high like category 2, almost category 3, so pretty high wind speed. When I came back, there was just like tree limbs everywhere. But
Wow.
I guess 23% of the city lost power. I'm sorry, 23% maintained power. 77% of the city lost power from that.
Holy
That was
moly.
Hurricane Zeta. The reason is because all the power lines are above ground, so any tree branches that fall or limbs or whatever could knock out power. But my neighborhood was fine. There's like no trees on my block basically, so
That's good. So let's talk a little bit about your experience playing music in New Orleans.
okay.
What's that been like?
Yeah. Well, you know, overall, I think it's been good, but I have not. The crazy thing is, I haven't played a show yet in the whole time I've been here, and that's just
You
been.
kidding me, man?
I am not kidding you. I played. I've done a lot of recording, and I've played. I've like jammed with a lot of people, and I've formed a couple of bands. Well, I'm on my third one now, but I've also spent a lot of time, working on solo stuff. But I've in the almost 6 years I've been here, not played a show yet in New Orleans, and I've played 3 shows in Chicago with like my, friends there, just to sort of supplement my kind of lack of shows here. There's been various reasons for this, at first, like for the first 3 years or 2 to 3 years I was here, I just couldn't get a band together. And that was when I was kind of realizing there's not that many people in New Orleans that are like into the same kind of music as me. I eventually realized there are some, but it's just a very small percentage. And then,
That makes sense.
yeah, 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 yeah. There's all kinds of music here. There's a lot of great musicians and great music here, but yeah, the sort of like styles of music that I've tended to play are, a small percentage of the scene here, I think. But it is a scene. I mean, there is a scene, and I just had to kind of figure that out, meet a few people. But I think a lot of people who were into rock and kind of things that I was doing, they already had a band or something. So it's like finding, in Seattle, it's like you could always find people who are looking for bandmates because there's so many people looking to be in bands that kind of have similar musical tastes or whatever.
Right. It
But
might not be the like style that you are interested in, but it's not challenging to find people to play with.
yeah, you can find people who are like in your ballpark pretty easily in Seattle. Where it was here, it was a major undertaking, to find a bass player and drummer who were in my ballpark. So the first band, so basically the first time I did that was in, I guess, 2017, which I had already been here 2.5 years by the time I met those guys. And we called that band Radiant Flux. Drummer was actually from Chicago, and guy named Jeff Massey, great guy. I'm still friends with him, but he actually, like, we kind of like knew some people in common in Chicago, which was kind of, so it was like, oh yeah, I actually met you 20 years
That's
ago.
cool.
Yeah, so I had actually like seen him play a show in Chicago, like 20 years before I met him here, maybe 18 years. But anyway, I was like, yeah, that's awesome. So I was like real stoked. And then, met this bass player from here named Paul. And that was Radiant Flux. We were about ready to play a show. We released an EP, and then the band just fell apart because, well, first of all, Jeff very in a very good way just let me know that it wasn't exactly what he wanted to be doing artistically and musically, and he wanted to pursue his exact vision and his solo stuff, and I totally respected it. And he came at like I said, he handled it the best possible way. I have absolutely no hard feelings about that. So
Yeah, it's pretty understandable.
yeah, and he was totally honest with me, and very like respect. It's like he respected me enough to sit me down and talk with me about it and say, hey, I want to resign. So it's like, what? Yeah, he went about it the best possible way. But anyways,
Yep.
so I thought, okay, so now I need to go back to the drawing board and find a drummer. But within like 2 weeks of that, the bass player ghosted me. And I found out later that the bass
Ghost
player,
Club, Ghoul Club.
yeah. So that, yeah. So I found out later that that bass player, as soon as Jeff quit, the bass player contacted Jeff, the drummer, is like, "Hey, want to start a band with me?" Because apparently the bass player didn't really like my style of music. He wanted to play like punk rock, kind of more straightforward punk rock type, which I tend to have weird chords and stuff, and
Yeah,
so,
I wouldn't consider your music really punk.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah. And I have nothing against punk, but it wasn't what we were doing, and I guess Paul, the bass player in that band, was not really happy with it, even though I thought what he was playing was awesome. But once Jeff left, he took that as his, signal or his opportunity to jump ship too. So yeah, Radiant Flux dissolved like almost instantly, right at the beginning of 2018. And but hey, we got a 4-song EP, done.
Yeah, and it sounds fantastic.
Oh, thanks, man. So then right after that, I was like, okay, fuck, I'm gonna just play some shows with my buddies in Chicago, just because I haven't played a show in a couple of years at that point. So I did that, and then that was like 2018 through early 19. Early 19, I got the. So the other thing, another reason why, there's some other factors why I hadn't played shows though. I didn't have the job I had. It was just like very, very demanding, and so I just, for the first time in my life, it was like my work life was like had a bigger share of my energy than my creative life, and I didn't like that. So
well, if I can remember, you were focused pretty hard on being a grown up. You bought a house and all that stuff, and
yeah,
there's not a lot
and
of room for messing around when you're living that lifestyle.
yeah, and that's an interesting point too, because at that and part of the reason I moved to New Orleans was I was married, which I at that time, and met my wife in Seattle, but she was from this area. I wanted to move back down here, partly
Yep.
so afford to buy a house, which we did. But yeah, it was definitely like like we're married, we're doing these grown up milestones that a lot of people want to do, and I had kind of consciously avoided all that stuff for a long time too, just because I felt like it was
Oh, I know that game, brother.
it would just take away from my creative life and my just my peace and well-being and all that stuff. I'm not saying you can't own a house, but yeah, it definitely takes resources. I mean, there's always stuff breaking and needing to be fixed, so it's like it's not just your mortgage, but you got to put a lot of money into maintaining it, and then you got to
I get you, dude.
just,
I'm still avoiding those things, so
I've gone back to avoiding them.
excellent.
I'm divorced now, by the way. Yeah, I'm in an apartment, and I have a new girlfriend, and
Yay!
yeah, I have a new job, which is much more like the job is it's the best job I've ever had. I wouldn't have probably been able to get it without the previous horrible job, but now I have this job. It's not as anywhere near as stressful or time consuming as the previous job, but I have the skills to do it because of the previous job. So I feel like I'm bouncing back in that realm as well. So yeah, Ghoul Club. There was this ad I had answered back in 2017. This guy named Jeff, not Jeff Massey, who was the drummer in Radiant Flux, but this other Jeff. I'll leave his last name anonymous, but he's a guitar player and songwriter, and he was really into Don Caballero and Hum and some other bands, Owls, and a few things like that. So there's some overlap, in our tastes, and even if our tastes weren't exactly the same, at least, it was definitely in the same realm. And, it's like, okay, wow, it's rare to find an ad like that. And I wasn't necessarily looking for a 2 guitar band because that's always hard to coordinate, but, I was willing to try it. I was even willing to try bass, to play bass with him or drums for him or something, just to, play music with someone, who, had sort of a similar frame of reference. But anyway, yeah, I answered his ad in early, like, spring of 2019, and turns out like 2 other people answered his ad. This bass player named Brandon and a drummer named Luis Salazar. So like the first, well, Brandon didn't show up to the first time, but like I showed up at Jeff's house and Luis was there, and the 3 of us played together, and it's like me and Luis just like personality wise clicked immediately. None of us really clicked with Jeff, but we kept trying, and then Brandon came by, the bass player, and so it was like, but within a month or 2, all 3 of us quit Jeff's band and formed our own band together. So we basically met through someone else's Craigslist ad. But
ouch for Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, whose last name will remain anonymous. But
Jim, Jeff, John.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, me and Luis and Brandon, well, one thing that we all kind of were into improv at the time, because I was kind of feeling like writing. I mean, and since then I've come back to writing songs, and well, Ghoul Club did record some songs, which are on the Volume 1 EP, but like everything else we will be releasing is all improv stuff, which is like 4 more EPs, I think, at least 3, maybe 4. But yeah, anyway, so like we kind of like Luis and Brandon and I, we all like really clicked on the improv level and sort of like experimentalism and stuff. And Luis, in addition to playing drums, he like had a bunch of other like electronics, including like a Moog. He has like a Moog drummer from Another Mother thing, DFAM, and then he bought the Moog Mother 32.
Killer.
And he was just making a lot of cool sounds with all that stuff, and some other gear. But yeah, he was a really creative guy. So yeah, Ghoul Club, we did not like practice on a regular basis or play on a regular basis, because like when we met, I was going through that whole year of trying to sell my house and separate. But both of those guys, Luis and Brandon, were helpful to me, in that process. But yeah, when it was like whenever we did jam, we recorded it, which is why most of what we have were improvs,
Yeah, so it sounds like you guys have like some songs that are improvised and then some are more arranged and rehearsed or whatnot.
Yeah, so the stuff that's on the Ghoul Club Volume 1 were like our arranged songs. Well, there's like one improv on there that's called Gravel Scrub, which is actually Gravel Scrub is a remix of an excerpt from an improv that will probably be on a later release. But Brandon actually remixed that, and it's really cool. It's very artistic and abstract what he did with it. But yeah, that's like the only other, I guess, improv thing on the Ghoul Club Volume 1 is so that song "To Ghoul for School" is very like composed, but the what I'm playing on like basically the last 2 minutes of it is 100% improvised, like the whole like.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we did that we tracked that live. So
yeah, I mean, when I listened to it, I thought not only did it sound really cool, but it definitely felt indicative of a musical style that you gelled with and stuff kind of that we've pursued together in different projects over the years. So I feel like you're kind of staying true to your vision with these guys.
Well, interestingly, Luis, the drummer, pretty much wrote most of the parts to that song. Like, I mean, he basically just came in with beats that he wanted to do. He's like, I want to do a math rock song, because he had been in math rock bands. We all liked some math rock stuff as well as all kinds of other stuff, but he specifically wanted to, make a math rock song. So those were his beats on the various parts. Well, the only part that it was a pretty collaborative, because what the first part, like I said, his beat. The second part that's 4/4, that was my idea, where it's just going, and then the kind of where it switches radically, that was another Luis part. Like I can't, it's like bum 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 bum. So that was his part, and then Brandon came up with the idea of adding a half beat to it, like towards the end of the song, and that's the last part. So we all kind of like wrote parts of it. Yeah, that was too cool for school, man.
That's so cool. I love collaborating with other musicians when you're not just writing parts to another person's song, but you're actually, everyone has input and you're all working together, bouncing ideas off of each other. I mean, that's pretty much the best case scenario creatively if you're working with people.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it is, and that's how the Ghoul Club was. I mean, I would say there were 3 songs that I kind of were like, oh, I have these songs, let's record our version of them. But even on those, I did not give any direction. I prefer to let whoever I'm working with write whatever they want, because I know when I'm playing in someone's band, I don't, unless
Sure.
it's just no fun for someone to say, play this, I'd rather just see what other people come up with, because it's usually something I wouldn't be able to think of on my own.
Word. Let's talk about this group. Was it Mary Halvorson and John Dietrich? How's that? How you say that?
Yeah, Mary Halvorson and John Dietrich. Yeah, John Dietrich is one of the guitar players from Deerhoof.
Yeah,
So you
that's right.
probably know that band.
So you sent me some of their music a couple days ago, and yeah, I got to listen to it. They have a Bandcamp release, or I guess they're on Spotify and all that.
Yeah, I think I sent you their Bandcamp page though, because they do have that, as well as, yeah, they're on Spotify and probably Apple Music or something. I actually heard it on Amazon Prime Music. But yeah,
Cool.
Mary, he's an awesome guitar player, and so is John Dietrich. I had actually heard of Mary Halvorson just independently before I, found that on Prime. But she's a jazz guitarist, and like jazz and avant-garde. And I was specifically looking for some inspiration, in that realm a couple of years ago when I started doing my solo stuff. So that's how I ran across her. And I already knew about John Dietrich from Deerhoof. Been a fan of them since about 2005. So
yeah, I feel like Deerhoof is a phenomenal group, a phenomenal band, group of musicians. Everyone in that group is just a fantastic player and highly creative beyond the normal levels of creativity. So when when that first tune kicked in, and it was a very Deerhoof-ish kind of riff, and I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna kick in, and I just kind of kept waiting for the drums to kick in, and then I was like, oh, this is just 2 guitars the whole time.
Yeah. There's, I think, one song that has, drums, and then there's another song that has like sort of electronic percussion on it. But yeah, mostly it's just 2 guitars.
What's the name of that record? I can't remember.
A Tangle of Stars.
That's it. Tangle of Stars by by Mary Halvorson and John Dietrich.
Dietrich, yeah.
Dietrich.
Yep. I think.
Dietrich. Is that German?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be a German name, yeah.
Dietrich.
Dietrich.
I don't know. I don't know any German. I'm German, but I don't know German.
I could be mispronouncing it. So yeah, did you enjoy the record though?
Yeah, actually, I really, really liked it. But then I got to like the third to last track, and it started doing that thing where it was just complete cacophony. For 5 minutes straight. I was kind of like, yeah, kind of got to move on from this now.
That was the deep cut.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad because I bet you if you could make it through that and get to the last track or 2, I bet you they would kind of seal it up nicely for you. But like I couldn't really get past that track, and then I had somewhere to go. So
that's okay. On most albums, I have my, favorite tracks, or, some albums, it's like I like the whole thing all the way through. But, a lot of albums, it's like, some albums, it's just like I like a few tracks the best. And that's definitely true with that album I sent you. There's a few tracks on there that I like a lot.
A lot of cool
I can't remember.
ideas, a lot of like diminished chords and, really
Yeah,
atonal kind of harsh
yeah,
sounding themes, but then they had some really consonant themes, some very pretty arrangements. So yeah, it kind of just was all over the map. So I thought it was really cool. Thanks for sending me that.
yeah. They really do run the gamut of guitar styles. I mean, it's there's I don't think there's anything in there that would be like classified as metal, but jazz, rock, country, kind of all those are in there, and electronic and experimental kind of avant-garde stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean, I
So,
almost feel like with those players, especially John D, I'll just call him John D.
yeah.
He's kind of just made up his own style of playing. You
Hmm.
can kind of just hear it through his playing. It's recognizable. One of
Yeah,
those guys, you just hear them and you're like, oh, that's this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, one thing too on that record with Mary Halvorson, I couldn't. Yeah, I would definitely hear stuff and be like, "Yep, that sounds like Deerhoof." But then I'd also hear stuff and be like, on each of these songs, I couldn't necessarily tell who was doing which guitar part. And I've
Yeah,
listened,
right.
yeah, because yeah, they're both just really great guitar players. I've listened, and like I said, I've listened to Mary Halvorson. She's like a really great jazz guitarist and avant-garde guitarist. So, I mean, there's on a lot of songs, I'm like, I wonder which, who's playing which part. Well, anyway, so yeah, you sent me an album to listen to too. That Peter Gabriel 3,
That's
and
the melt, the face
mhm,
melt.
yeah, yeah. So there's a lot that I liked about that album. I think the first song, Intruder, was the best song on the album.
By far, I agree with that.
And I've actually heard that song before, because believe it or not, Primus covered it. I think it was on Miscellaneous Debris or something like that. And I actually heard that Primus version of Intruder like when I was in high school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. You know what else Primus covered on that? It was like an EP. I think it was like 5 songs, but one of them was that, and Intruder, and then the other one. I don't remember what they all were, but I know one of them was "Have a Cigar" by Pink Floyd.
Oh, cool. I love that song. That's one of my favorite Pink Floyd's.
It's a great song. Yeah, great song.
S-
So anyway,
So yeah,
um,
did you have any more observations about that album?
yeah, actually, so like there was a lot to me. There was a lot of I felt like there was a lot of David Bowie influence on it. I could hear a lot of like in the vocals and the chord progressions and sort of styles of the songs. It's like, oh yeah, I think Peter Gabriel really liked Bowie and was into like Diamond Dogs, and like even maybe some of the maybe there was like a song on there that reminded me of the album Low by David Bowie. Like the second side of it where it's all like instrumental and like synth driven. So I think there's a song like maybe on this Peter Gabriel album that what was it called? Lead a Normal Life. That
Yeah, that
really
was a good one.
I really like that song, because it had like just some sparse synth parts, and it's talking about basically being institutionalized. It sounds like but yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of dark subject matter
Yeah,
lyrically in that album, and
like that family shot or whatever was about like his childhood. It sounded like partly.
I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense. Like if you are, making that kind of music, it's pop music, but I mean, by today's standards, it's not very poppy.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I'm sure he has a lot of darkness in his past, so he needs to get out there.
yeah. And I mean, at that point, he would. I mean, I guess that was his third solo album. I didn't check to see what year it came out, but I'm guessing in the '70s, because he
80.
1980. Okay, because he left Genesis in like '75, right? Something like that. I was reading.
I don't know. The year is in the mid to late 70s, I'd say, if I
Uh,
were to guess.
I think it was he left around 75 or so, from what I was reading. But yeah, I mean, Genesis was a prog band, back then. They got more poppy in the 80s, but part of the reason Peter Gabriel left Genesis is because he was too theatrical for them, and he was stealing the spotlight from the rest of the band.
I mean, to be fair, he was the singer, so
Yeah, but I guess like he apparently in those years that he was with Genesis, his sort of like stage theatrics became more and more the focal point of their live show, from what I was reading, and the rest of the band didn't like that as much.
sure, yeah. I guess back then, it was more about the whole band. It wasn't necessarily. I feel like more in more recent times, band is more about the singer, less about the band.
Yeah, it really depends, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it really depends, but yeah, I mean, I guess there are people that approach it that way, and probably a lot of artists who like probably record everything themselves because it's a lot easier to do that in this day and age, and then they can put together a live band if they need to,
Sure.
like if there's ever live shows again, which there probably will be, hopefully. Oh
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, go ahead.
So oh no, yeah. Well, just to tie that into the previous discussion, that's right when the Ghoul Club would have been ready to start playing out. There was a pandemic, and then so we never got to play out. And then Luis, the drummer, moved to Philadelphia after a bad breakup with a longtime girlfriend here. So since then, Brandon
Sounds
and I,
rough.
yeah. So Brandon and I have been working together and have created a new band. And just this January, we found our drummer, who is Aaron Collada, who is the drummer in the Transport Assembly right before you. Can you believe that?
Far out.
Far out, man.
What are the odds?
So I know. So basically, and this is another, like, it's like Aaron and I have kind of been chasing each other across the country for like a few years because, when he left Seattle, he moved back to New Orleans, which is where he's from. And he was, teaching computer science at Southeastern Louisiana University at that point. And then right when I moved to New Orleans in 2015, I just missed him here by like a few months, and he moved to Chicago, which is where I'm from. So he was, the whole time I've been in New Orleans, he's been in Chicago. But then, yeah, he just kind of returned here, and now he's a professor of computer science at Tulane, which is like the premier school here. So yeah, we got like premier computer scientists in our new project.
You guys are just two star-crossed lovers.
No. Yeah. So yeah.
But yeah, like I just wanted to touch base on that Peter Gabriel album. The thing that I thought that was weird about it, but it was also cool, which kind of made it work, but also by nature made it didn't work at all. I guess, I don't know. There wasn't really any continuity whatsoever to any of the songs. In fact,
Okay.
the third song sounded like it should have been the first song.
Yeah. You know what that third song reminded me of it sounded just like the beginning of Future World by Trans Am. You remember that little saxophone intro?
Oh, dude, yeah. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is really laying the groundwork for a whole cultural phenomenon, the 80s sax solo. Like just that stereotypical, like the shades are drawn and then there's like kind of a film noir lighting scheme. And then you just hear the sax, kind of a careless whisper riff.
You know what though? That sax solo on the Peter Gabriel thing also reminds me of the first track on Diamond Dogs by David Bowie, Future Legends. It's like he's playing the sax solo.
Yeah, two pioneers.
But Bowie did it first, and I'm definitely thinking Gabriel was super influenced by Bowie.
Bowie did everything first. I mean, let's just face it.
Yeah, he went
He's
to
a golden
Mars.
god.
He's the first human to go to Mars and come back.
I think he's still up there.
Maybe. Bowie's in space.
But yeah, that's all I really wanted to touch on with that, but I'm glad we. I like this segment. It's like album
Yeah,
nerd album geek out session.
right. That's what it's like to be in bands with people. You talk about this stuff.
Yeah, dude. I'm just curious, like, how's the gear scene over there? Have you picked up anything lately, or?
That was actually one of my questions for you too. How has your gear changed over the years? So, should I answer first and then you go?
Yes, by me, all means, please do.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, like when I was playing with you, I was always playing Fender amps, and some of them were bigger. Definitely bigger than necessary. But yeah, because like that was just like when I was coming up and first started playing in bands. That was the thing, was a half stack.
Oh
And
yeah,
the only
dude.
yeah.
Fender's solid too.
What'd you say?
Fender's pretty solid.
Yeah, no, Fender's a good brand. I had this 60s Bassman head ever since I lived in Chicago. I think I bought it in like 98 for like $200 at the time, like a 1967 or 78 Bassman 50-watt head. I still have it, but I know I played that with Stradian about half the time, and then the other half of the time I played an Earth head that had twice the wattage. Probably remember that, huh? But yeah, that was the thing with
Vaguely.
like vaguely. And then the other amp I had was a Fender Deluxe Reverb. And I bought that Deluxe Reverb when I was in the transport assembly. I was trying to downsize, to something 1x12, and it was 22 watts tube. That amp was still too loud. By my standards now, but at the time I was playing with you and you were playing louder than I'm sure you play now, right? Wouldn't,
Definitely
would
much more so. I've toned it down.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what happens. So yeah, we were from the loud school of rock. You had
School
several
of loudness.
school of loudness, yeah, school of noise, which and I know you had played with the Building Press, and that guy had a Fender twin reverb, which
Dude, yeah,
probably,
that thing was ear piercingly loud.
yeah, so that's what and the thing too, at that time I was trying to like get my breakup sound by just cranking the Deluxe Reverb amp, which it would do, but yeah, it was loud. It was too loud, and because justifiably so, I felt like distortion pedals didn't sound as good as the natural breakup of an amp, but Fenders are designed to be clean, and so eventually, I've what I recent just like within the last 3 years, I switched to Vox. So now I have a Vox AC10, which I absolutely love. It's just one 10-inch speaker. It's a tube amp, 10 watts tube, but it's loud enough to play with a band. And it's just like voiced perfectly to cut through the mix. And it has reverb. So yeah, but it basically has a volume knob and a gain knob. So I can have any amount of grit at any volume without, I can just tailor, the volume knob can be exactly where it needs to be. I don't have to crank the volume
Sure.
to get, it's a brilliant concept. So yeah, and that just, to me, I like the way it sounds a lot more than I ever liked, my previous. I'm nothing against Fender, but I've just been playing guitars with humbuckers for a long time, and I think Fender amps sound best with single coils. That's my conclusion
Yeah,
at this.
I could see that.
Yeah, it's really good. Like Johnny Marr, he gets a Smiths, great sounds with like single coil Fender Mustang and a Fender Deluxe Reverb amp. That's a great sound. But yeah, I had humbuckers. I was going for a little more grit, but I wasn't going for like heavy distortion. So yeah, Vox is
Sure.
perfect. Vox is perfect for me, and it has reverb on it, and it just has like, like they always said, that snarly Vox sound. But it also can, yeah, it's really good for classic rock. It's good for pretty much everything, jazz, funk,
Versatile.
versatile. Yeah, and it's like because it's smaller, it's like a 25-pound amp. So even the lightest amp I had prior to that was the Deluxe Reverb, which was like 42 pounds.
It's all about
But
light gear the older you get.
it's all about light gear. Yeah. So, and I know you've downsized your drum sets probably because of the same reason, huh?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I went really extreme. I just stopped,
Playing
using
drum.
my own stuff. I would show up to gigs and be like, "Hey guys, Can I use your shit?
You didn't ask in advance?
No, we did, but I mean, not every time, but most of the time I did arrange it in advance. But and there were times when I would bring stuff, but I would try to avoid bringing gear because I don't know, man. It's just my work schedule. It didn't really like showing, loading gear at 4 in the afternoon didn't really jive with my work schedule. I mean,
So that was
what work schedule would it really? But
right. And that was the thing with Stradien. I think you and I both got sick of playing gigs because we had such big gear. We had to have a van, and it was
oh
like,
yeah,
well, I mean, I think it kind of started with your drum set because you because you had the 26-inch bass drum. You had the Bonham size drum set.
yeah,
So
I
then I
got
was,
rid of that.
I know, but like during the course
Emo.
of that other green Sparkle Ludwig kit that was like 22-inch bass drum or whatever. So it was more like
Still got
normal
that.
size. Okay, that's a cool kit. But yeah, they we so because you had, well, because you were allowed, and whatever, like hard hitting drummer, which was appropriate for that style of music. I found this 6x10 cabinet, which was like pretty much the same height as a Ampeg SVC 8x10 cab. So then our bass player John was like, well, you got a guitar cab that's as tall as you, so I have to have a matchingly tall bass rig, which he got.
Oh yeah,
uh,
dude. I mean, it's just a pissing contest with the gear. I mean,
yeah,
it's
so
really stems from some kind of level of insecurity, some shit that went on in your childhood. I mean,
yeah, I guess you had it the worst thing, because you were blowing us all out with your Bonham drums. So I
yeah, I
went
had a
out.
rough one. I had a rough go.
So I'm like, well, fuck that. Here's this Magnatone 6x10 cabinet. I'm getting that. But yeah, no, I left that when I left Seattle. I left that cabinet at John's house,
You
and
left that lifestyle behind.
I left it behind. And now I got a 25-pound Vox AC10. Couldn't be happier. Oh, and you know what? I had that 20-inch kick drum on my Ludwig kit, and I also recently got a Gretsch kit with an 18-inch kick drum. So the jazz,
Solid.
yeah, doing the jazz stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been any gigs in the last year for me, so or for a lot of people, and I kind of like stopped playing with the group that I was doing, Forced Ray. Just felt time to move on or whatever. So I
Yeah,
mean, I've been kind of playing my E kit in my apartment, and occasionally when I go in to teach, I'll play a real kit once a week or whatever, which is an amazing treat. I will just say that.
yeah,
I think E kits are cool. It's great to have. They're convenient, but playing a real acoustic drum kit is kind of a visceral experience. It's very, I
yeah.
don't know what the word is, but you just
Satisfying.
feel better.
Yeah, it is. It is for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and now like, sorry. So I have my Ludwig drums over at Tracy's house, and she's been playing those and she owns a house. She can play them. Then I have the Gretsch drums in my apartment, and I've been playing them with brushes, like maybe 5 minutes here and there, but that definitely keeps my chops up. Every once in a while, I'll take my sticks out and play the Gretsch drums like out loud here in the apartment for like 5 minutes.
You're a brave man.
It's New Orleans. I mean, yeah, I have neighbors on either side, and I'm in a one half of a shotgun double house. So I share a wall with one person, and then the next door house is like 3 feet away. So yeah, it's like I hear my neighbors talking all the time. I know they hear me, but yeah, I just try to keep it respectful, and no one's ever complained.
Cool, dude. That sounds awesome. So I went and looked it up. It was 1975. It was the year Peter Gabriel left Genesis. So that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. And um, prior to listening to that whole album, and I mean, obviously, like I said, I'd heard that cover of Intruder by Primus, but what I remembered Peter Gabriel for in my childhood was Sledgehammer and that video.
Oh yeah, obviously, me too.
Yeah, great video, obviously, but yeah, he definitely came a long way from the 70s to that era in the 80s with Sledgehammer and all that.
Yeah, he had another hit pretty early in his solo career.
Rise.
Something Road.
Oh, okay.
Do you know that song?
Mm. But then in your obviously that was a huge hit in the
That was
80s.
like Sledgehammer era.
Yeah, totally.
I want to say Charlesbury Road, Ashbury Road.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
I'm gonna look it up really quick. Salisbury Hill is the song I'm thinking of.
It kind of sounds
It's
like
like,
it'd be like,
dude, it's an awesome song. Like I remember hearing it before I knew it was Peter Gabriel, and it kind of was like, is this? I thought it might have been Cat Stevens or something because it's kind of got an acousticy flavor to it.
okay,
It's an awesome song, and I think it came out pretty much right at the beginning of his solo career.
Oh, okay.
And it might have been a pretty big hit. And then I think I don't know what he was thinking, but he pretty much avoided making any hits for a long time after that, or until that album. So I think was the one with Big Time and In Your Eyes,
Okay, got it.
which was like mid '80s.
Yeah. I still don't know how they made that sound on Sledgehammer where it's like
That is a type of keyboard that was sample based.
Hmm.
So they sampled a flute sample sound, and then
Cool.
they recorded it into the keyboard and played the riff on the keyboard. I can't remember the name of the actual equipment, but I remember looking into that recently.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that explanation. Yeah, and man, you've been doing a lot of keyboard based music recently, including Dream Commander, which was an awesome EP.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have you been getting
Stuck
some
inside,
What'd you say?
I'm stuck inside.
Stuck inside. Yeah. I mean, dude, I mean that was part of the whole, motivation for me to, do solo stuff that I could perform by myself was like, I couldn't, even before the pandemic, it's like, I wanted to do something where I, if I can't find people to work with, I can still do it,
I think it's so fun to just be your own bandmate.
Yeah.
It's so just drama free, and if you don't feel like doing anything, you don't have to. I mean, yeah, I kind of make myself feel guilty for avoiding being creative, but it's just different. It's a lot easier and less stressful than dealing with people.
Yeah, and I mean, like my current bandmates, Aaron and Brandon, are awesome guys, very easy to get along with. And then with the Ghoul Club, Luis was easy to get along with, awesome guys. So it's like with the right people, bands are fun, and I mean, you and I always have a lot of fun.
I mean, I wouldn't have been doing it for 20 odd years if it wasn't fun or rewarding.
Right. But yeah, sometimes it's good to have, like different projects because there's benefits to solo projects too, and that's why people do those. And then there's some people who prefer to do that only or mostly, so.
So you've been working on some solo stuff lately?
I want to do another solo EP. Yeah, I released one about a little over a year ago, under, and that's, it's just guitar, kind of, definitely more like experimental, but also soundtracky kind of sounding stuff, I think.
I checked it out. Would you consider your Max Minimum project solo stuff?
Yes. Yeah, Max Minimum was all just guitar and vocals. I think I played drums on one track too, but that was the idea behind that too, and it was supposed to be something I could perform by myself because like a lot of times with Stradian, there were big gaps of time in between when we were able to meet or record or whatever, just based on what was going on in each of our lives. And so I got antsy.
Maybe we should do a podcast with you and John Herman.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Maybe John could be your next guest or one of your guests. But he's an awesome guy, very interesting, and knowledgeable person.
Excellent musician, producer, and manager at Trading Musician here in Seattle.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I was definitely really fortunate to work with you and John, as well as other people that I got to work with, in Seattle and here. But yeah,
David Totten.
David Totten, he joined Stridian for the last 6 months that I lived in Seattle. Yeah, David Totten, great, great, great guitar player. Very good to have him play with us for a few months. And yeah, then I got whisked away to New Orleans to live the grown-up life until I, had enough of that. Now I'm back to musician life.
Well, dude, it's been amazing having this conversation with you, and it's so cool to hear about all the different musical projects that you've been pursuing over the last several years when you've been kind of moved out of Seattle. I think you have what, 3 to 4 releases since then?
Well, let's see. So there was, Radiant Flux EP, the Ghoul Club Volume 1. Oh, and then there's Music by Josiah Feinberg. So yeah, that's 3. And then there's going to be more releases coming this year. And yeah, so the as of right now, or the new band with Aaron and Brandon is called Magnetic Personality. So
Got it.
Changes between now and the podcast air, but
You didn't take my advice.
which was what?
I was like, I like all the names except Magnetic Personality, and you guys like, let's choose that one.
That's the one. No, that's not the reason. Actually, what happened is, and this is, picking a band name, that's a whole other topic. But we had Brandon and I had narrowed it down. Aaron didn't want to, weigh in. He wanted to, he just wanted to let me and Brandon pick. So we, had it down to 5 names. And so yesterday I was like, well, I think it's Dark Filaments, because like everyone that I had talked to liked that name, and I did too. And so as soon as I said that, for whatever reason, that made Brandon feel like, wait a second, I actually want it to be Magnetic Personality. Like it just triggered that reaction from him. He's like, you know what, that's what like he thought about it like all day, and then he let me know. He's like, yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, wait, no, I want it to be Magnetic Personality. So I'm like,
it's like reverse psychosis kind of thing.
Yeah, psychology, I guess, but yes. Yeah, so we had that discussion, and he's like, yeah, I feel pretty strongly about it. I'm like, okay, because I was not feeling super strongly about any of them. I felt like, the 5 that we had narrowed it down to, several of them were pretty good. So I would be, but he felt like Magnetic Personality was his favorite. So I was like, okay, that's it. So
congratulations on deciding.
Yeah, magneticpersonality.bandcamp.com. It'll be up like by the time this airs, and I think we'll have a song or 2 posted up there by the time this podcast airs. But yeah, there's also there's gonna be more releases by the Ghoul Club this year too. Like if that's all posthumous, but yeah.
Cool. But, yeah, I'll definitely plug you guys and put the Bandcamp link in the upper margins or wherever I can.
Thank you. Yeah, and hope to release another solo EP, josiahfeinberg.bandcamp. So
we've got the Ghoul Club Bandcamp, Josiah Feinberg Bandcamp, and Magnetic Personality Bandcamp.
Against Eric's better judgment.
And if you're not in 3 bands, then you're not doing it right.
Right. One posthumous where you're still releasing the whole catalog. One solo for when you can't meet with your homeboys or whatever. And then one band.
Yeah, dude. Well, I'm kind of curious. I was thinking about back in the day a little bit, and I remember you had a story about Unwound. I was wondering if you could tell your Unwound story on the podcast.
Okay. I don't want to. The thing is, I don't want to say anything.
Okay, you don't have to. You don't have to say it. You don't have to even tell the story. I just wondered if you were interested.
Okay. Basically, the short version of it is that when I was looking for a bass player for the Transport Assembly, I put an ad out on the Seattle Craigslist. And
wait, well, what year is this? First of all,
05, I think 05 or 06. No, it was 05. Yeah, 2005. And I was like a huge fan of Unwound, so I definitely listed them in the influences. Uh,
Definitely.
yeah, and I got basically two responses to the ad. One was Vern Rumsey of Unwound, and then the other was Shayna, who ended up being the Transport Assembly bass player. But Vern,
Ended up
yeah,
being your wife.
she did, yeah. So there's that too. So anyway, Vern did try it. Well, he jammed with me, but we didn't. It wasn't a fit. He didn't want to play songs. He wanted to jam. But at that time too, he had he just had some personal issues. Let's just say that, and that definitely interfered with his ability to be a band member, at least with me. But yeah, like I said, I don't have anything bad to say about him as a person. He seems like a really nice person.
Well, I mean,
But
he's since passed away, so R.I.P.
yeah, yeah,
Mr. Ramsey.
yeah,
Rumsey.
clumsy. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Everything. I don't want to say anything that would
Okay.
tarnish his legacy because he's an awesome bass player. His work with Unwound was amazing and inspirational to me. So I was, yeah, definitely like, whoa, yeah, Vern's trying out for my band. But yeah, unfortunately, it was not meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, it must be surreal to like place an ad for musician wanted, and then it's like, you're basically one of your not idols, but someone, underneath that tier
Yeah,
starts to interact with you. It's just like, whoa.
yeah, for sure. And I think I mean, he and the band Unwound, I mean, I definitely idolized them for a while. But yeah, I think there were some turning points in my life, and maybe you've had that as a musician too, where you play with people or you play a show with someone and you're like, oh, they're just a person and they're not, or they may not be as cool as I thought they were. Like for example, when I met Jay Mascis in Chicago in 2001, my band opened for him when he was doing a solo tour, and I was like, what, probably like 24 years old at the time, and I tried talking to him after the show because I was like such a huge fan of Dinosaur Jr. like in high school and college and stuff. Um, I tried talking to Jay Mascis and I was like telling him, I was just gushing about how much I, admired his music. And he just kind of looked at me and goes, oh, okay. And then I walked away. I was like, that was
I
stupid.
mean, yeah, that's like, if anything, that's like a
Him
demonstration of his social
feels,
ineptitude or ability or whatever you want to call it. It
yeah.
also could have
And
been just he was having a bad day. You just never know.
well, and I'm sure, like I came on real strong with my adoration and adulation, and that was probably awkward for him. But it was a lesson for me. Basically, is the moral of the story is like, he's a person, he's a normal person, and maybe he's a socially awkward person, probably, as is kind of known about him. So, yeah, me going up there, that didn't achieve anything. And I just ended up feeling stupid afterwards. So
Yeah,
hey,
it's a really interesting interaction because it kind of raises a few questions. It's like, A, was it your interpretation of his reaction? Or was it actually his reaction? Or does you know what I mean? It's like
I
maybe
don't.
to him his interaction with you was perfectly normal, where you took it a certain way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I kind of might have interrupted. He was like chatting it up with some girls, and I was kind of like, "Hey, Jay."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, I have a flashback of when I was much younger, and I feel like I crossed a boundary with a band that I idolized, so to speak.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and now I think back on it and I'm kind of embarrassed by my behavior.
What band?
So Man or Astro Man,
Yeah, good
that
band.
band, the surf rock band on Touch and Go. Uh, I was sort of I had a girlfriend at the time who kind of knew the band, and so I think we took a little bit of liberty, or I did at least, or we did. I don't remember, but I feel like I might have pushed the boundary of my comfortableness with them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, And now I'm kind of like, dang, dude, you should have given them a little more space than that, because
Well, what year was that? Like, I'm guessing like 15, 20 years ago or something.
very early 2000s, probably
Yeah.
2002 or 3. They were playing, and we kind of wormed our way back to the green room, and I kind of was like thinking about that, and I was like, dude, that was really not cool. Like, you really shouldn't have done that. um
Where
but I
you
mean,
remember?
they were really kind and gracious towards us, so
Oh,
maybe they didn't care, but I don't know. With my perspective nowadays, I would never have dreamed of doing something like that.
yeah, I mean, that's what you live and you learn. I mean, you learn from those experiences. Because I think when, yeah, like when we were in that age bracket, early 20s, mid 20s, whatever, we were probably still idolizing bands that, we liked and musicians that we liked. And we had to kind of like learn those lessons. And yeah, for sure. Was that when you were in the building press, or was that a different band?
I I don't even know what band I was in at the time. I mean, my band wasn't playing. We were just there to see them.
Okay.
So anyways, yeah, I think it was probably like Vermilion era, Building Press era, somewhere in there.
Oh yeah. So get this. This is pretty. I mean, and this is kind of like the kind of thing that happens to me. But like before I moved to Seattle, one of my friends played a building press record at a party I was at. He's like, "Listen to this stuff, man. It's from Seattle."
Wait, when was this?
Like 2004, probably.
Oh yeah, I think that was that the record I didn't play on though?
I'm not sure, to be
I
honest
think it
with you,
was. I think it was the one I didn't play on, but maybe it was the one I played on.
but anyway, it's like, yeah, and then I ended up playing with you, who was in building press.
Well, man, we're just a couple of math rock heads. I mean,
Yeah, math, prog, jazz, rock, metal, sometimes for you.
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely the one of the least metal people I know, but I still appreciate some metal.
Well, you've played in some metal bands, I guess, right?
I played in some harder stuff, yeah, harder bands. I never really identified with metal culture personally. I think it's a lovely culture, it's amazing, but I just never felt a part of it. Um, but
You didn't
yeah,
feel
I like listening to that stuff here and there.
what's
I'm not a
what
diehard, but yeah.
you didn't kill your bandmates and eat them, that kind of metal.
I mean, think about it though. Like, most people into metal, it's a pretty big part of their life. Like, it's
Yeah,
almost like a huge part of their identity. You know,
yeah.
It's something, I don't know. I think it's a thing you latch onto when you're younger, and then for a lot of people, it just sticks.
Yeah, and then but also for some people, yeah, some people have to, like, if they want to advance their like career in another field, then they have to kind of like tone down the metal identity, right?
Sure. I guess
At
I'm
least
thinking more musicians, like metal type musicians.
I got you. I got you. Yeah. Well, you know what though? I mean, I admire the technicality and precision required to play that music, because I don't have it. I've tried. I can play some stuff, but I mean, the level that you got to be on to play metal guitar, that's a notch above me. So I
Same with
definitely,
drums, dude. Same with drums. I'm too much of a pocket player to be a metal drummer, I'd
I got,
say. I like my Herbie Hancock. I like my, you know, funk drumming, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, me too. But I also, back in the day, you used to definitely be into like Danny Carey and, some heavy progressive drum, right?
But yeah, dude, Danny, a lot of the Danny stuff is pretty rooted in R&B too. Like, those grooves really sit back, in the pocket. But
It's true.
yeah, he does the double kick flourishes and all the fast fills and stuff, which, I can kind of get into that stuff personally. I don't, that's not a big part of my playing, but
Yeah.
yeah, hats off to all those guys.
Yeah. No doubt. Do you remember? Okay, so this is, I mean, I know we're probably gonna end up editing a bunch of
Don't
stuff
worry
out.
about it. Just go with it, bro.
Going, okay, so do you remember do you remember the mysterious smell at the Stradivarius rehearsal place, which happened?
No. Was this at the First and Lander thing place? Where was this?
No, because Stradian always
Oh, dude, in John's basement.
we always played in John's basement. So when,
Yeah, I
early,
remember that. I remember that story.
early on, there was a mysterious smell, but it wasn't the house or anything. But we couldn't figure out what it was.
Oh no, dude, after practice, we would be like, bro, what the fuck was that smell? Like, what is he doing down there? Is he like decapitating people and putting them under the floorboards? The fuck is going on? This guy's house.
It was pretty early on in the band too, so we like kind of were trying to be polite, but you eventually were like, John, there's this kind of, what is that smell? Turns out it was like a latte that had been sitting there for like a couple of weeks in the milk.
It was my I think it was my hot chocolate from like a month or two before. And it was one of those things where you would be practicing and you wouldn't smell it, and then you get a whiff. You just get a whiff, and you're like, "Ooh, smells like some cheese or something, like dead rat." I don't know.
We didn't wait long enough. It could have been cheese.
We are like, "Is that?" I'm like, like smelling myself. Did I forget to bathe this week? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun, dude. Those were the days. I remember getting up at like Monday morning at like 10 and going to band practice in the morning. I was like pretty surreal.
Yeah, that's right. Because we had, what was it, like 11 a.m. band practice, or was it more like noon?
Yeah, it was way too early. I know that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just like it was when all three of us had a day off, and like John had the house to himself. So, I mean, that was cool. I mean, I really appreciated not having to pay for practice space.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then also, John did all the recording and production, which was mega cool as well.
Yeah, you kind of insisted and it worked out.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, absolutely worked out, and just love having someone in the band that can record and produce. So, that was definitely the case with Stradian.
So I'm just kind of curious, like, where does this desire to kind of make technical music come from? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so for me, it's not all about technical, but at one point it probably was like, oh yeah, I wanna do unusual time signatures and unusual chords because everybody else is doing usual time signatures and usual chords. So I just wanted to stand out. But the other thing is, it comes a lot of the whole math rock urge for me. It was part of the Chicago scene in the '90s. It's like a lot of good bands.
Oh yeah, dude, I was way into that stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, even Shellac was kind of a math rock band, and then June of '44, awesome band. Don Caballero, and then who else? Well, Slint, they were Louisville, but they were on Touch and Go with Chicago.
June of '44 was Louisville too.
Yeah.
Or Knoxville or one of those.
Louisville, yeah, but they moved to Chicago though.
And sure, yeah. Don Cab was originally Pittsburgh and moved to Chicago.
Right, because Chicago was like the place in the '90s, one of the places for that type of stuff. So they had great labels and a great scene. And then they had even weirder stuff like US Maple going on. Yeah. So
that was that Peter Gabriel song Intruder, when they do those like pick scrapes.
Yeah,
kind of reminded me a little bit of the US Maple stuff.
Yeah. I mean, US Maple definitely draws from like Sonic Youth and No Wave type stuff, but they definitely take it in their own direction, and I think they take the vocals further than because Sonic Youth has like, I mean, some of their vocals are not melodic, but a lot of them are. But like Sonic Youth, well, the early Sonic Youth definitely more dissonant than melodic, but then they kind of evolved into a kind of blend of melody and dissonance. But US Maple is just all dissonance, and then the vocals are like primal kind of
Yeah, but I feel like in their last couple releases they got a lot more mellow or melodic or consonant, whatever you want to.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, it's there was a progression. I mean, I have not heard Purple on Time, which was their last record, and it's crazy that I have not, at this point.
Listen.
Go listen, yeah. And they had a different drummer on that one, but the drummer on their other albums was jazz drummer, really, and I think his style really kind of contributed to the sound too.
Yeah, they had a couple drummers that were both fantastic drummers.
Yeah, yeah. But definitely, yeah, US Maple, that was an interesting band. Very interesting. What else?
Well, I
Uh,
mean, I feel like this desire to make technical music stems from a combination of a couple things. It's like you were saying you want to stand out or feel unique,
mhm, mhm.
but also I feel like there's this urge to create problems to solve. You
Okay.
know, if you're kind of living a kind of a easy life, like kind of like we do, it's like, well, how can we make it more difficult? Well, let's think of some really hard riffs to remember.
Well, also another thing too, it's like once you're, I mean, once you sort of, I don't know, I've scaled back from doing like just mathy songs, ever since I moved to New Orleans. I've written a lot of stuff that's 4/4, all 4/4.
Naturally, I mean, yeah.
But the math keeps coming back because I keep working with people, or at least in Google Club, and now Magnetic Personality.
You
uh
can't stop the math, dude.
I know. I'm working with people, and it's like, yeah, they're into it too. And I mean, it's people who like King Crimson and Yes too. I mean, it goes back to the '70s, progressive rock. And man, you really turned me on to Yes when I was in Seattle, because I had previously definitely been into King Crimson, and had limited exposure to Yes, mostly like '80s Yes. But yeah, you're like, listen to Heart of the Sunrise, and so I did. I'm like, oh fuck, that's awesome.
Yeah, I can't remember who turned. Oh, I know my one of my college teachers first turned me on to Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, this guy
But
named
yeah,
David Benton.
okay.
He was a art teacher. He taught like 3D design and stuff. Yeah, he first told me to listen to Yes. And so I
Yeah.
went out and got a couple of Yes records like Fragile and Close to the Edge, and my mind was blown.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think for me, the desire to do unique chords came first before the desire to do different time signatures, because I had to work up to the different time signatures, and I think that kind of happened more like when I was in Seattle. I think I might have had a couple of math rock songs when I lived in Chicago. I did. I had like one that had like some seven, and then I had like another song that had some irregular meter where it was like, yeah, changing throughout the musical phrase, but really explored the whole math rock, time signatures a lot more in Seattle. But yeah, then once you do it a lot, you become good at it, and it's like it's not hard to do it and fall back into it again. And especially if you're working with other people who want to do it, it's like, okay, I can do that. I have experience in math rock.
It's a
I have,
fun thing to play, and I don't know if it's the most fun music to listen to, but
yeah.
it's fun to play.
Well, there are still some good bands doing it, like Terra Melos, for example. I don't know if you're a
Yeah.
fan. Yeah, but they're
I've heard their stuff. It's amazing.
yeah, they're a good band. So yeah, they're still doing it in their own way, and with like kind of melodic vocals now, which is cool because they were instrumental at first, I think. But yeah, they have adapted and kind of evolved in interesting ways. So they're cool, and they also have like interesting pedal sounds, from the guitar player. So
Textures.
yes, yeah. So that's all. Yeah, that's part of it too. But yeah, no, I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, I probably like definitively, well, probably like the first guitar player I ever heard that had any sort of dissonance was probably Joey Santiago of the Pixies. Like his lead guitar playing, sometimes he would do kind of like some dissonant dyads in there, but it was within a melodic context. And so I was like, I heard something in there. And then shortly after that, I heard Sonic Youth for the first time in 1992 or three. It was the video for 100%, and I was like just totally floored by what that was. And so I had to.
Yeah, I feel like Nirvana and like maybe Sonic Youth were the two bands that I first heard that like clashy sound.
Yeah, 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 for sure. So yeah, it's like yeah, it's like I heard those sounds and my ears were like, whoa, that's interesting. And
Like that song "Milk It" by Nirvana.
yeah,
That was very post rock.
yeah, definitely he was doing some
Very dissonant kind of stuff
yeah,
there in the verses, at least.
yeah, and like even though it was like a probably that was a 4/4, but it sounded off. It just sounded like really confusing to me because it was like I think Dave Grohl was playing the drum part backwards
No,
or
that's
something.
one of those beats where I think he adds an extra quarter note in there
Okay,
every few bars. I taught it once, but I can't remember. But yeah, it's definitely a weird beat.
yeah, it's like the bass line kind of held the song together, and then the drums were like kind of cascading in that way by adding in a beat here and there or something. And then the guitars were just like just playing random notes and stuff, and until the chorus, and that's when everything really like came together and rocked hard.
Great song.
Yeah, definitely, and that was on In Utero, produced by Steve Albini. So again, that Chicago sound,
Well, dude,
Yeah.
I'm feeling the urge to wrap up our pod, but dude, it's been an amazing conversation. I'm so glad you were able to join me. I want you to come back
Okay.
and we can
We'll do.
talk more math rock. We can talk. There's all kinds of stuff we didn't bring up. Talk
Oh
more
yeah.
Video Quest,
Oh, Video Quest. Yeah, absolutely.
some customer stories.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Lucky number 11.
Oh, fuck.
Getting inside here.
Yep.
But yeah, no, for anyone who's still hanging on, still watching, please check out the Ghoul Club, check out Magnetic Personality, check out Josiah Feinberg solo. I have a project called Dream Commander synth project I've been doing. And yeah, thanks for watching. Until next time.
All right. Thanks, Eric.